As we continue in our study of grace, I'd like to turn to another person in the Bible and look at this person's life as an example of how grace works and how beautiful of a gift grace is in our lives. So let's turn to the book of Job, and we are going to talk about Job. This whole book is dedicated to Job's life, and I think that this is something that everybody should read and take the time to kind of study, because we really get to see this man Job, who had everything, really. He was rich and he had no complaints. And Job chapter 1 verse 1, this is what the Bible says. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and shunned evil. He's described similar to how Noah was described. He's perfect, he's upright, he feared God, he obeyed God, he didn't do any evil, he resisted the evil, just like Noah had. But then if you continue to read Job chapter 1, you can see that he's also rich, and how, he's praying, and you can see how he continues to pursue God. Now, verse 6 tells us that there was a day when Satan entered into the presence of God to question God about Job's faithfulness, to question God about how come Job was being so honest in front of God. Well, of course it had to be because God was giving him things. So God said, you know what? Take things from him. It's okay. Take it all from him. It's okay. Verse 11, but now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face, is Satan's threat to God. That's what Satan says Job is going to do. And the Lord said to Satan in verse 12, behold, all that he has is in your power, only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now, when there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone escaped to tell you. And he was still speaking, and another man came in to say, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone escaped to tell you. And while this man was still speaking, another came. The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raised the camels and took them away. Yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. And then again in verse 18, while he was still speaking, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house and fell on the young people, and they are all dead, and I alone escaped to tell you. It's horrible. In the span of maybe what appears to be 5-10 minutes, Job receives horrible news after horrible news after horrible news. And what I want to finish off today's devotion as we continue into our next day, what I want to finish off today's devotion is reading verse 20 to verse 22, because this is a lesson for you and I. Then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head, and he fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong. It's a huge lesson for us. A huge lesson. When things go wrong, what's our first response? I think that Job right here, he shows how much grace can really work in our lives. If we go to God and we continuously worship him and we don't charge him with wrong, because remember, we serve a God that is honest. We serve a God that wants to take care of us and wants to show us love and show us kindness. And that is who we have to have our trust in, not a life full of doubt. That is why the Bible tells us that we are saved by grace and through faith. Because in those moments where you feel like nothing is going your way, you need to have faith that God is going to restore you. God is going to save you. And you will find the grace of God heavy upon your life to sustain that. I hope to see you tomorrow as we continue to study the life of Job. God bless you.